You guys are doing well. I'm doing the big hair, don't care look. I have been so drained, overstimulated, underachieving as of late, and I don't like to post content when I'm like that, especially when I don't have like a very clear idea of how to get out of that, if that makes any sense. I don't know, but I just want to put myself out there. I actually came on here to talk about Alandria. And then I'm like, I gotta talk about my damn self. Okay, let me say what I was gonna say about Alandria, and then let me talk about me. So this is not an Alandria channel. I just happen to love her, but it's not an Alandria channel. If you follow her, you may know that she is a rookie in Sports Illustrated Swimsuit Edition. I am a early 80s baby, 90s kid, was obsessed with Sports Illustrated. Tyra, Georgina Robertson, let me see. I'm trying to think of the Black girls that were like big. Of course, Jessica White, you know, just like, and by the way, I love all kinds of models, but you know, Black women have been underrepresented in the fashion industry. We can't play that game. Like, that's not true. And and when I'm looking at a magazine, that is who I, as a little girl and now as a grown woman, can on some level see myself in, you know, physically speaking, right? And then I see Alandria, and she rocked the hell out of it. Okay, so love that for her. She is gorgeous. I love that for her, and I love that for us. Like, I just, you know, she's so beautiful, and I feel like I've said this before, but she is such an amazing representation. And she is so freaking tiny. Goodness gracious, that girl is tiny. And that is her body type. She is tiny, okay? Now, I say this to say that I've talked about this before, that in the African American community, thinness has been shunned. Or at least in the past, like it was a flaw to be skinny. Not as bad as maybe being as big as me, of course, but it was not the preferred body type. To this day, there are a lot of Black women who are sitting up there intentionally gaining weight because they are ashamed of their thin bodies. No other community do I see doing this dumb shit, and I'm calling it what it is, this dumb shit of trying to gain weight because you're ashamed of your thin body. And I don't care who you are, I'm calling that dumb shit, you know, on average, to be doing that stuff, okay? If you're a healthy person and you're just trying to gain weight to fit the African American aesthetic, okay? And why I came here to say, and then I'm gonna go into my own problems, is that I was looking at Alandria on her most recent video where she's like, you know, posing, showing off her curvy, thin, beautiful body and stuff. I'm like, if I had a body like hers, if I looked like her, I'd never be broke again. And I'm gonna leave it there. Anyway, on that note, and I don't think she's ever gonna be broke again either. But on that note, I was thinking to myself, she is such a good representation as a thin Black woman to send the message that you don't have to gain weight to be beautiful. Now, granted, I am going to call something out in what I'm saying, because what I'm saying doesn't completely wash in the sense that she's thin, but she's curvy. Okay? That's okay to be thin and curvy, right? In our community. If you're thin and you're just thin, no boobs, no booty, no thighs, then that's no hips, you know, whatever, you're just a stick, that's when you catch shit, okay? So, yes and no, but I'm gonna lean more towards yes. then no. You know, I think her thinness is about as pronounced as her curves, if not to some people more so. It's some people who don't even believe her curves are hers, which I do. And that's why I love her. I shouldn't say this, but I'm going to say this because she just happened to mention it. She said that she has stretch marks, which I've seen them before in different, you know, pictures of her and stuff, videos, whatever. I've seen them. You know, she has stretch marks on her boobs, and I love them because they're so real. You know, I am covered in stretch marks, you know, since I was a child, because I was a little fat kid, I had stretch marks, and I love that, you know, and it also signifies that her boobs are hers. You know, like, because I know that people have tried to say because of her tiny body, oh, those couldn't be hers. No, she just won the lottery. Okay, the genetic lottery. Those are hers. Okay. Anyway, let's move on. I'm surprised they don't say her lips are fake or her nose is fake or her cheekbones are fake, but she's gorgeous. And anyway, so yeah, I think that her thinness is actually really going to help change a lot of Black women's perspective and Black girls' perspective of what it means to be beautiful in our community versus thinking that you need to be thick to be attractive, you know, and yeah, you know. This wasn't what I was going to talk about, but I'm going to vent about it since I'm here. I also want to vent about, I think that worrying about other people's problems will make you ugly. I say that loosely because it doesn't mean you're really ugly, but I just mean I think it will take away from you. You know, I think obsessing over other people's problems in life, like I think I've talked about this before, but I want to vent about this again. This is such an uncomfortable story. And by the way, the person I'm about to talk about, I'm not calling them ugly at all. I think they were beautiful. So I want to preface that before I talk about this sensitive topic. In fact, I'm not going to even say who it is, but if you know me, then you may be able to figure out who I'm talking about. So I have a family member that passed away, and they were married. I had a hard time processing their death because my perception of their death in the beginning was different than other people's, where I saw their death as like, because they had been very ill, you know, I saw their death and it affected them mentally, you know. Then I saw we're just going to say it, dementia, okay? I saw their death as like them being free. And I'm not into assisted suicide. That's not what this was. This was a natural passing. But from my perception, I saw it as them being free, if you know what I mean, right? Versus like somebody could be like in the worst pain and just mind isn't theirs and so on and so forth, and people still want them to carry on like, hold on, Uncle Joe or Uncle Tom or so, you know what I mean, whatever. Like, you know, this person is being held together by a string and some people just don't want to let them go. And I mean, if they want to fight, that's one thing, but you know, sometimes like they're just waiting for their moment, you know, to go. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that that was the case with this person. I don't even want to think about it. I'm just saying, like, talking about this in a generalization thing. Anyway, depressing. Okay, I know. But the point is, so I didn't process their passing when it happened properly, right? Then years later, I sat down and I looked at their obituary. And in their obituary, they had all of these pictures that it was like I could see their personality jumping out of the picture. And I finally felt it. Like I finally, like, I don't know how to explain it. I felt the loss of them. You know what I mean? And I love this person. So it wasn't, and you know, it wasn't anything negative. It was that I just was like kind of detached because, like I said, in my head, I was like, well, you know, they're finally at peace now. They don't have to, like, you know, carry on with the struggle that they, you know, the physical, whatever they were going through, you know what I mean? And they were in their 80s. Again, if you know me, then you'll probably figure out who I'm talking about. And anyway, I'm looking through their obituary, which, you know, it was a brightly colored obituary with pictures in it and everything. And like I said, it really hit me, the loss that I had felt, or that, like, finally I felt the loss. I'll put it like that, fully, when I'm like, oh my gosh, you know, that's this person, you know. And again, I'm not going to say who I'm talking about, but obviously a family member. And anyway, and so I was like crying a little bit as I'm like looking at this. And one thing also jumped out at me. This person was younger than their husband, significantly younger than their husband. I can't tell you. Ooh, hold on. Would be how, I think. So I would say easily over 5 years younger. Okay, I can't give you the exact number. I'd have to like compare obituaries and stuff. But anyway, here's why I mentioned this story. Is that their husband in a lot of these pictures looked so much younger than them. He also stayed younger than them, if you know what I mean. They stayed healthier, and up until the very end. Again, if you know me, then you're going to know who I'm talking about. But he was older than his wife, and yet she was the one that deteriorated, which that was partially genetic, because what was going on with her was genetic in our family, you know, whatever. But just the same, you know, way before she got sick, in these pictures I saw, she looked so much older than him, and she was much younger than, or significantly younger than him, but she looked much older. And it hit me like a ton of bricks that when you are the giver and you're pouring into people without boundaries, like this woman was that kind of person, it takes so much out of you, you know. And so I say this to say, you know, for self-preservation, if you care about your looks, even superficial, I know, you have to start setting boundaries. You can't let people drain you, because they will. You know, they will suck you dry if you let them, you know. And I'm not just talking about her husband, I mean, period. You know, because she was always the one that bent over backwards and did cartwheels to try to keep people together and healthy and happy and comfortable, and just looked after people. And it showed. You know what I mean? And she was beautiful. And I hope she knows that I know that, or that I like that I feel that way. You know, she was beautiful, but it took a lot out of her. You know, I don't think it's a coincidence that a lot of women tend to look older than our husbands, because in general, we tend to do the most and worry the most about other people. A man will worry about maybe himself and his family, if you're lucky, his family. Whereas women will worry about ourselves, or, well, if sometimes we're not even on our list really, but we'll worry about our husbands, our families, our neighbors, our friends, you know, etc., etc. We'll worry about the world, you know. And I think, and to kind of touch on Black women again, I think that's why a lot of us are super overweight, because we tend to carry things in our community. You know, I feel like Black women carry the most burdens in the Black community, and it shows on us. And the number one way I feel like it shows on us is obesity. You know, whether you were a little Black girl who suffered abuse or a Black woman who suffered abuse, and you ate to soothe yourself or to protect yourself even, or you used food to just, again, soothe yourself. You know, you don't want to do drugs because drugs and alcohol have been shamed as bad things, and they are, you know. So the easiest thing to do is eat. I've done it, you know. We are stressed out. And that's kind of what this video is about, you know, and it's me touching on something I've wanted to touch on anyway. But to kind of wrap it up is that, yeah, I've just been having a rough week or two, whatever, I don't know. I'm not quite in the threes. I'm in the low 290s, or high 290s. I'm almost in the threes, but not quite. But I was looking at the scale today and I'm like, I'm about 8 fucking pounds up. How did this happen to me? But I know how it happened to me. Oh, and quick vent. I have not gotten my period yet. Here's the funny part. Okay, this has happened to me before, but it's relatively rare, but it has happened to me. Let me clarify. It wasn't rare about a decade and a half ago, but at this stage of my life, it's rare for me not to get a period, right? You know, I have PCOS, which they changed the name. I'm calling it PCOS. I don't give a... Okay, but as it were, I have PCOS, and I have been pretty consistent since about 2011, I want to say, was the year of my consistency that it began. And so 15 years, okay, 15 years, I guess, that I've been consistent. And again, I've had rare occurrences where I will skip a period. But if I were sexually active, I would be scared. But the fact that I haven't been, that I know, I'm like, okay, what's up? I had a period last month, perfectly fine. I got, okay, before my period starts, I get a pain, like a shooting pain on either my left side or my right side. This time I got one, I think first on the left side and then later on the right side, which was weird, I think, because I think the side that I get it on is the side that I think is going to release the egg or something. I don't know. Anyway, if you know what I'm talking about, you can comment about it. But the long and the short of it is that my period hasn't started, and it was due on like the 8th, and we're now on the 13th, 8th or 9th, and we're now on the 13th. So it looks like I'm going to miss for the month of May, and I am pissed because I have been stressed and everything. And normally when my period comes, that's when everything normalizes for a few days. And then and then I get back to being cuckoo again. Well, I didn't get my period, so I'm like, okay. You know, it's kind of like your house is on fire and you're expecting the fire department to come, and you're like waiting outside and they never show up, and it's like, really? So y'all just gonna let my house burn down, huh? And that's kind of how I feel when it comes to my period, is that when my period comes, that's when my brain kind of acts normal again. You know what I mean? When it comes to like food and just being high strung and everything. So I'm going through it, but I'll be okay. I'm just like, ugh, right now. I have some chaseberry, and I told myself that I may take it If my period doesn't show up in the next few days, then I may take it. We're going to see. But another part of me is like, girl, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. You skip your period every once in a while. It's not that deep. You know, it's only like a month. Like, in other words, every once in a while, out of a 12-month year, obviously, I might skip 1 month in a 12-month year. You know what I mean? It's not, now if I were like skipping month 2, 3, 4, 5 or something crazy, you know, then I would be like, okay, I need to go get checked out or something. But 1 month not getting your period is not the end of the world. So I'm going to leave it there. Okay. Thank you for watching. I'm hoping when I come back that I have some good news for y'all. Take care. Bye.